Thank you.
All right, I understand that we have a bill for Senator Hester next, 723. I understand she's busy voting on a major piece of legislation that's very complex. So her aide is going to testify on her behalf.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
All right, now let me see who else we're bringing to the table. Emily Scarr, that's you. Okay, what about Rob Link?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Emily Ransom and Steve Sakamoto Wangle. All right, let's see, is Brian Bernie also here? Okay, we'll go like this. Okay, for the, you've got so much firepower and we've got a lot to do in the votes, so we're going to give the rest of you 2 minutes each, and we'll see how that goes. All right.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
So for the record, Nithin Venkatraman on behalf of Senator Hester. Senator Hester is downstairs in EHE, so she can't be with her second favorite committee today, but she extends her regards. Thank you so much for your consideration of Senate Bill 723. This bill will require original equipment manufacturers to provide independent repair providers with documentation, tools, or other information necessary to repair a product. This would increase the longevity of equipment that many of us use and prevent equipment manufacturers from shutting repair providers out of the marketplace, effectively creating a monopoly for their own benefit. For context, this legislation is modeled after a Massachusetts law passed by ballot initiative in 2012 to require that vehicle owners and independent repair facilities have access to adequate vehicle diagnostic and repair information. After that law went into effect, car manufacturers and independent repair shops voluntarily entered a national agreement in line with the Massachusetts law. Essentially, this policy has been in effect in Maryland since 2014 for the auto industry alone. This bill intends to apply the same model to all consumer electronics and equipment, extending the right to repair to a broader range of products. I will note that some members of the industry are voluntarily moving in this direction, but others are lagging behind. This legislation keeps industry moving at a steady pace towards these goals for the benefit of all of our constituents. As you will see in the accompanying testimony, this legislation has the potential to make our consumption of manufactured goods more sustainable, the ability to repair more accessible, and the repair market as a whole more competitive. On behalf of Maryland's consumers and citizens and my boss, I respectfully urge a favorable report on Senate Bill 723.
Okay, could I ask you just to take maybe 30 seconds to tell us what major problem initiated the filing of the bill?
Absolutely. So I think the panelists here can actually speak more to that regard. There have been issues with farm equipment manufacturers and consumer electronics specifically that have led to this legislation, but I think my panelists can speak more.
All right. Okay.
Thank you so much.
And panelists, you might go in whatever order you would like.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Emily Scarr. I'm the director of Maryland PIRG, the state public interest advocacy organization with grassroots members across the state. We support SB0723, Right to Repair, or as we call it, Just Let Us Fix Our Stuff Act, and we thank Senator Hester as well as Senator Jennings for sponsoring this legislation. Thank you. The problem here is that consumers don't even have the option to repair our stuff. Manufacturers basically have a monopoly on repairs themselves, or they're licensed or authorized, not even licensed, authorized dealers. So they can repair things for you, not repair them, or just encourage you to buy new, which is what they usually do. And so we want to make sure that all consumers have access to the same things we have access to for cars. You can take your car to the manufacturer, the dealership, or an independent repair shop. And we should be able to do the same thing for our washing machines, our cell phones, our computers, and even our tractors. In order to repair an electronic device, you need a couple things. You need proper tools, schematics, and diagnostic software. You don't need access to trade secrets. You don't need access to intellectual property. You don't need access to source code. We're not asking for that. We're asking for people to have the same tools that the dealerships and repair shop and the manufacturers have. You may have heard about Apple's battery gate, where they were purposely slowing down people's cell phone batteries. Weren't able to have them, but you might not have heard about the fights farmers are having with John Deere. There's a link to an article in my testimony I'd encourage you to take a look at. Please thoughtfully review the materials. You're going to hear a lot of trade associations come up here from very big tech companies saying a lot of scary things that we don't think holds water. So we have the Attorney General staff here to answer some of the legal questions, and we have some other folks who can answer a lot of technical questions about what actually goes into repair. So we strongly encourage a favorable report.
Okay, who's going next?
Thank you, Madam Chairman and esteemed colleagues. My name is Rob Link from the Repair Association. We're a small nonprofit advocating for the right to repair. Today I'm here to represent the thousands of repair people and repair shop owners who take good care of our technology every single day. I myself used to own a successful repair business in the D.C. metropolitan area. I operated that business for over 10 years, but because of some of Apple's restrictive policies, it caused us rapid declining profits, and we had to close down. I actually sold the shops, I should say, to my technicians. Today I want to talk to you about small businesses, though. The vast majority of independent repair shops around the country are small businesses. Many of the people who have found their niche in the world have lifted themselves up and their families to repairing technology. Some are here today or watching the broadcast to see what you are prepared to do for them. Why? Because they're under attack from large corporations who want to restrict repair in order to sell more devices when, in many cases, a new device is simply not needed. This monopoly on repair has to end now, before more small business people are hurt. Maryland, you've done an awesome job with small businesses. There's over 581,000 small businesses in Maryland, which represents 99.5% of Maryland businesses. 1.1 million people are employed by these small businesses, which is about 50% of Maryland's private workforce. So you're doing an awesome job there. Let me tell you about a couple of small businesses in Maryland that have recently had to shut down. Capital Mac in Baltimore, some of you may have heard of. They were in business for 3 decades and were an Apple sales and service authorized location. But some of the policies that restricted them caused them to close down. I spoke to the owner myself, and he was very sad to leave the industry. District Repair in the D.C. area closed after 10 years of business and a perfect 5-star Yelp rating. Tough to get. They had joined the Apple pilot program just 6 months before they were forced to close up shop. I could name others. One last point, sorry. Why do we need right to repair in Maryland? In the last 12 months, for instance, 746,000 Marylanders went to iFixit to look for parts and repair guides. In a soon-to-be-released survey, 89% of independent repair technicians said that they would be more successful if they had access to repair software from Apple and Samsung. It will help small businesses. Please consider this legislation.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I am Emily Ranson with Clean Water Action, and I'm here to present some of the environmental testimony, which is signed on by Environment Maryland, Sierra Club, Transition Howard County, WISE, the Maryland Conservation Council, Earth Forum of Howard County, and the Maryland Legislative Coalition. This legislation is about putting the right to repair back into the hands of the consumers, allowing them to both repair their goods and use them for a longer amount of time. Legislation like this will allow millions of tons of useful products to remain in use instead of filling up landfills, and more impactfully, reduce the burden of source materials, manufacturing, and transportation of these new devices. The best way to fight electronic waste is to interrupt the market pressures and the market pressures that encourage replacing a product with something new, and instead repairing what you already have and extending its life. So as a brief example, if Marylanders were able to extend the life of their phones on average 1 year longer, that would be the equivalent of taking 11,000 cars off the road and would have significant savings for those raw minerals that are used in electronic waste. Furthermore, this bill is not designed to enable people to skirt emission standards. And so we are very glad that we were asked to be here and urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Steve Sakamoto-Wengel on behalf of the Consumer Protection Division, the Attorney General's Office, here in support of Senate Bill 723. I'm not going to repeat what the prior panelists have said. I just wanted to note that after consumers got the right to take their automobiles to any repair facility without having to just go to the dealer, more competition was introduced. Prices came down, and now you can take your car to whichever repair facility you prefer. It's more convenient, and it's no longer going to void your warranty to do so. We believe the same should apply to electronics. The same should apply to farm equipment. So we urge a favorable report on this bill. Thank you.
Okay. Is that everybody? Okay. Senator Hershey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question. Why do people get new electronics? What's the main reason for that?
I can only speak from my personal experience. People get new electronics if they want them or if their old thing doesn't seem to work. So I've gotten a new phone when my phone battery slows down, when I haven't been able to replace it, and I think, oh, a new one, might as well just get a new one.
And the manufacturer of the phone could not do anything with the battery or chose not to?
Chose not to.
Chose not to.
I mean, or it's too expensive to repair, so I have a fridge in my basement right now that's not cooling cold enough, and I think it would cost more to have a tech look at it than to buy a new one. So cost, I think, is the other key factor.
That's kind of a good thing, too, though. We've driven down the prices of appliances, and electronics have come down pretty dramatically as well, too, right?
Some electronics, a lot of cell phones are very expensive, and the cost to get them repaired at a manufacturer is far more than it would cost to get repaired from an independent repair shop. We were talking in the House, for example, Apple wouldn't replace your charging port if it stops working, but an independent repair shop, Rob was saying he could do it for $12 if he had access to the parts.
Okay. Speaking of some, you talked about, the bill talks about embedded software. Now, is that currently in proprietary information? Is that why the independents would like that?
No,
It's not proprietary?
no,
Then why don't they have it?
because the manufacturers won't give it to them.
Isn't that kind of what proprietary means?
Under current law, you own everything on your phone. So the software, everything belongs to you. You have the right to repair it. You just don't have access to repair it. I think Rob might be able to answer this one better, or no?
Some of the software we're looking for mainly is like diagnostic software or syncing software. What we found recently is that manufacturers such as Apple or John Deere are serializing parts so that it requires a code or some sort of syncing software to be able to match the battery, let's say, with the phone, which is a little extreme, and you'll get a warning message if you even take another Apple battery from another Apple phone and put it in your Apple phone. It'll give you an error message unless it goes through that syncing software.
So the information that you want, have you offered to pay for it?
Under reasonable situations, absolutely.
And this bill allows the manufacturers to charge for it. It's not saying it has to be given away free.
They could charge for it, okay. And then finally, right now, does making those types of repairs, whether it be to electronics or farm equipment or anything else, does that void warranties?
No, it should not. Magnuson-Moss covers that.
What's that?
The Magnuson-Moss Act, it's an automotive act, and it doesn't allow manufacturers to void warranties when a user has worked on a device like a car, for instance, is mainly what it covers.
That law is not specific to cars? It encompasses all types of
No.
consumer goods?
It's, I believe, and I'd have to get more information on that, so maybe I shouldn't
Yeah,
give
no.
that without it.
Controlled by federal law. We can get you more
Yeah,
information on
federal
how that works.
Absolutely.
Right. So, but if that's in place, then why is this bill needed?
Because people have the right to go in and mess with their phone. They just don't necessarily have the information they need. They don't have access to the correct tools, the parts. It's illegal to get, you can't actually buy the parts from Apple, and they don't necessarily have the diagnostic software that they need.
Yeah, and if I could add on to that,
Sure.
Apple makes it very restrictive to do these things. So when you said if they would sell it to independent repair shops, well, they released a program recently, and the price list got leaked. And the prices of the parts and the system that they require people to go through to be able to replace those parts was, in some cases, 10 times more what an independent shop would charge for a repair.
But Apple does have authorized repair shops, right?
They have a limited number of them, and they only do basic repairs, generally only screen replacements and or battery replacements. So no other repairs on a device would be covered by them.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Senator Bidle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So what happens if an independent repair company is repairing my $799 phone and you destroy it?
They would be responsible for that under their own insurance. I know in my shops, unfortunately, we had some times where something went wrong, and we would replace the device.
Thank you.
Senator Klossmeyer.
Yeah, two questions. When we're talking Apple, is the reason Apple is at the top of your hit list, I guess to say, is it because in order to get an Apple even fixed, even the screen, you have to go to the Apple store? Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. That's what they ask, what customers automatically assume. I did a survey in my consulting work where I found about 90% of consumers assume they have to go back to the place they bought something to get it repaired. So that's where they go. Apple knows that, and usually, if you go into an Apple store, it's a sales operation.
Well, I mean, because
Yes,
if I have a Verizon phone, not an Apple, I can take it to get it fixed at Verizon, but I can't take my Apple phone to the Verizon place to get it fixed. Is
There
that
are some
correct?
very complicated layers there, yes.
Yeah, and can you just give me a couple more examples of, I mean, it's kind of hard to get my head around it, so.
Of repairs?
Yeah, of other things. You said a tractor, so I can't get my John Deere tractor fixed?
Well, a lot of the newer tractors require a service technician to come out and sync up the part. So let's say you need a new light bulb. Literally, a service technician would have to come out and or sync that part to the tractor for that light bulb to work. So that farmer's down until a technician can come out and take care of that for them, is a good example. In terms of consumer electronics, what we see most are broken screens and battery replacements. Obviously, battery is something that's going to deplete naturally, and they've made that very difficult, Apple, and they're the big dog. They do this the most, but other manufacturers do this as well, where they restrict or try to keep people from getting their devices fixed.
Was there a story about gum in a USB drive? Was that you telling me that?
No, there's actually, I know one of Microsoft
How
Xbox.
about a wash machine?
If your washing machine is smart, as many of them are these days, it's going to be controlled by software.
And so I would need to get someone where I bought the wash machine to come in and fix it, or do they have
Yes.
repairmen?
Yes, it's what we call in the industry the computerization of products. So, in the marketing brochures, it's smart, like she was saying, but it makes it more complicated for repair. So no longer can you just, go to your car and put a bulb in when the bulb burns out. Now you'd have to go in on a computerized system and have an authorized service technician with special software and special devices to be able to do that for you.
But if the washing machine companies made this simple information available, we would likely see a resurgence of the repair industry and small businesses setting up to come and repair your smart TV or your smart washing machine for you instead of having to take it back to the manufacturer.
Other states, are they involved in this? I mean, we're not going to be
We've had
an
legislation in over 20 states. Unfortunately, we haven't moved it too far, though we're hoping to get floor votes in the coming months in a couple of states.
Any around Maryland?
New York would probably be the closest.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, Senator Jennings.
Thank you. So, as a co-sponsor of the bill, on the surface, I'm a supporter of it, especially on the mechanical side of, as you said, on a phone, fixing a charging port, or a tractor, fixing axles or repairing the motor should the motor blow up. The concern I've got on the bill is on the source code, and that's what Senator Hershey had mentioned. And what I go back to is we've had a couple horrible incidents in this country with a terrorist act in California, a shooting in Florida, where the FBI was trying to get into the person's phone. And Apple won't release it, and it's been, I think, a constitutional fight on it. And what I'm looking at is if we're dealing with that on a federal level, giving away source code would basically be, I guess, a back way into being able to try to get into a phone. So how do you deal with that?
I'll let you, simple put, this doesn't give away source code. This is asking for the same tools that the 23-year-old who works for an Apple store to do repairs has. We're not asking for access to code to do any of that. It's just the simple diagnostic tools.
Okay.
It's not, no way are they going to be able to do anything that their 500 technicians in their shops do already. We don't want access to that. And if there's anything that needs to be fixed in the bill to make it
Okay.
crystal clear, we don't want that. We don't want that.
All right, I'll work on that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we're going to Brian Byrne, Andrew Rogers, Sam Mencimer, Jessa Jones, Louis Rossmann. Are those people here? Let's see how many of you there are, because a lot of people have signed up on this.
Need more chairs.
What about Maxwell Block? Sure. And Andrew Rogers.
Present.
Okay. You may go in any order. You have 2 minutes each.
So my name's Louis Rossmann with Rossmann Repair Group. There's a few pieces that I'd like to address. The first is, let's say someone ruins the device after working on it as an independent. What happens with that? This bill doesn't cover any of that. And where I am, I have to get a license from the Department of Consumer Affairs in order to do what I do. I get fingerprinted, I get bonded. So if I destroy a device, I have to replace that for my customer and make them happy. Because if they're not happy, they'll report me to the Department of Consumer Affairs. They revoke my license and my business goes away. And most likely they'll use the money from that bond to pay for that customer's device. Secondly is source code. Many opposition lobbyists will try to confuse legislatures by confusing a schematic with source code. So the schematic is simply a document that says what is in the device and how it is put together. Source code is the actual code that runs on the device, that is the program. We're not asking for source code. We are looking for a schematic. When the device is sold to you, you could technically measure everything inside of it yourself if you wanted to sit there for 6 months and make your own schematic. So that's not a trade secret, and in my opinion, it's an abuse of copyright protection to call that a copyrighted document as a schematic. There are other companies in the past that have tried to copyright troll by actually putting a drawing in the schematic so that they could say the drawing is my copyrighted material, therefore you don't distribute it. Now, when it comes to warranty, this bill has nothing to do with warranty. If you want to fix your own device and you break it and the manufacturer can prove that you broke it, if you're working on your car and you put gas where the oil is supposed to go, that's not going to be covered under warranty. This bill doesn't change that. That also, warranty is covered under the Magnuson-Moss Act, which means that the manufacturer can't void your warranty unless they can prove that you did something to break it. But if you did do something to break it, if I break a customer's device, the manufacturer can say, this is what he broke, this is where he put the wrong screw, this is where he put the wrong chip in, I'm not warrantying it. This bill is mainly about consumer protection and the ability to get access to what was available from essentially the beginning of electronics to maybe 10 years ago before companies started changing the culture.
Thank you. All right, who'd like to go next?
I'll go next. Hi, my name is Jessa Jones, and I grew up in Maryland. I went to college at College Park. I went to grad school to get my PhD from Johns Hopkins, and then I moved to Rochester, New York, and I came all the way back here at 4:30 just to talk to you guys today because this bill is really important to me and it's really special. So right now, I have fixed over 10,000 iPhones. Mostly, I fixed the tiny little motherboard on there, and there's a couple things that I want you guys to know. Number one, if you buy an iPad, you probably think that when your kid steps on it and it cracks the screen, that you'd be able to go back to the Apple store and that they would fix it. You'd be wrong. They don't offer that repair. They don't offer that repair. They won't change the cameras. They won't change the charge port. They won't fix it if it needs to have a new battery just for you to get the data recovered if it's water damage. They don't do any of that. And in fact, these guys helped me make this map when I got here at 4:30 in the morning. One of the pages over there made this map of Maryland where he typed on here for me, pink dots are the Apple stores. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, I grew up down here in Worcester County. That means I got to take a day off of work in order to get there just to find out that they can't fix my cracked iPad screen. Now, the second thing I want you guys to know is that we've already been fixing this stuff for a long time, so why do we need your help now? And I'll tell you why. And the answer is because we're seeing an increased software locks and pairing that didn't used to exist. So today, if I take your iPhone XS and I take the battery out, and I take Lewis's iPhone XS and I take his battery and I put it in there, your phone is going to lose the battery health function because his serial number is not paired to the device. So what we're asking for isn't, magic source code to hack into the device. What we're asking for is I'd like you to either stop pairing the parts to the device with a serial number or give me the little doohickey that they have at the Apple store that would let it say, here's your new battery. Now it's programmed. That's what this bill is really about, and I'd be happy to answer questions from you guys.
Okay, that's very helpful. All right, who's going next?
Thank you.
I'm going to go next. I'd like to start preemptively, basically adding on to what they said. My name is Andrew Rogers. I am a computer engineer that works for a small
contractor called McCulloch Consulting. I do embedded firmware development, and I do software. I write software that does data analytics. But my opinions expressed today are my own. So I'd like to talk about the relationship between the safety of intellectual property and opening and repairing your devices. And I'd like to tell you that there's not really a strong relationship between those two things. Software that is written so there are going to be some lobbyists that are going to come in here, for the games, the game console lobby, for example. They're going to tell you that this has some risk to their intellectual property, but that's simply not the case. Any code that runs on your devices, or even the firmware that is on the board, that's distributed in either a binary format or a bytecode format that targets a virtual machine. This is all like ones and zeros and binary machine code. It's indecipherable by humans. It takes extensive reverse engineering to even understand that stuff. So distributing either the firmware that is used for the doohickey to make the batteries mix and match with the right iPhone does not in any way violate, even the magic firmware that goes on there. That's a binary. There's no if the manufacturer provides access to that, there's no risk to their intellectual property. And there's no risk to games publishers or game console makers of their source code for letting you open their device and providing you parts to actually fix stuff. So I'd like to I'm in favor of this bill, obviously. So, yeah, thanks.
Okay, you just move the mic.
No, I mean, they do call them programming dongles. It's so the doohickey or a programming dongle, flashing device, they're all the same thing. They're used in electronic equipment across multiple different industries by electrical engineers and technicians the world over.
Okay, just move the mic.
Good afternoon, and thank you for your time today. My name is Maxwell Block. I'm a resident of Catonsville, Maryland. Grew up there. Grew up down the street from a independent repair business called JBS Electronics. They've been in business so long they don't have an area code on their sign out front. And over the years I've developed a relationship with this business. When my laptop broke a charging port, I was able to bring it up there, get a free estimate, get it repaired. Word of mouth, told a lot of my friends and family. When their charging ports broke on their laptops, they brought it to JBS Electronics. And we were able to get it repaired. I've heard today from other panelists that there's this trend across the industry. I've heard from some committee members that technology moves very fast. And to me as a consumer, this is really important because I want to continue to be able to bring my devices to these businesses that I built a relationship with, get that free estimate, and have them say, I can fix that for you. With the gatekeeping that's going on between the supply chains, if they can't call up an equipment manufacturer and say, I need this part, please sell it to me. I think the language in the bill is on reasonable terms and cost. Then their only response to me, the consumer, is I can't do it because I don't have the means or capability to. And that impacts my rights as a consumer. If I'm then told, sorry, you have to go to the Apple store, and I'm glad I don't have to drive, take a whole day off of work to do so. But that limits my choice and impacts the cost and competition that are available to me in the marketplace. So because this is terribly important to me, I took some time off of work today, affecting my own income, to protect my rights for the ability to continue to make my choice and support businesses and save my costs in the future. So please favor the bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sam Mencimer. I am 16 years old. I'm a junior in high school. I've been running an electronics repair business in D.C. since I was 12. I'd like to thank you all for allowing me to share why this bill is important for me. I'm here today because I believe right to repair is very important because to ensure the longevity of our electronics as they become a bigger part of our lives. As my fellow panelists here said earlier, manufacturers have been intentionally making it more difficult for third parties to repair their products by implementing software locks like the iPhone 11 batteries, where you can't swap them without having an error message. A lot of people, Apple and a lot of manufacturers will cite like intellectual property issues, and safety issues are a big one. This is a quote from Apple. They said in response to this, the battery error message, they said, "We take the safety of our customers very seriously and want to make sure any battery replacement is done properly." I've been replacing batteries in iPhones since I was 12. I'm still here today. I've never been injured by an electronic device during a repair, and I've repaired many, many devices. I mean, this is an iPhone 6. The screen comes off like this. There are some screws. There's a battery. The pull tabs come out, and the battery pops right out. I don't really see how that's an issue. These manufacturers also don't give us the electrical schematics that were mentioned before. I actually have an electrical schematic right here that I pulled out of my less than a year old Bosch dishwasher. So this tells me that a lot of manufacturers don't actually see this as an intellectual property issue if they're literally sticking it in the bottom of my dishwasher for me to see while I'm repairing. If I had this schematic for every electronic that I came across that someone asked me to repair, I'd be able to keep hundreds of devices out of landfills and save consumers thousands of dollars. This schematic let me fix that dishwasher the other day after a rat chewed through some drain pump wires. The Bosch service technician quoted us $450. I fixed it with a piece of 80-cent wire and a $20 drain hose. So I encourage you to give this bill a favorable report and let us keep doing our jobs.
Okay. You can reach him at Sam's Screen Repair.
Yes, exactly.
Could I add something really quick?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I think Sam, you're the young man from
Yes.
this. Okay. I have a question on the intellectual properties.
Sure.
How about on consoles like Xbox, PlayStations? Are there any intellectual properties on those that manufacturers would be concerned about?
Not that I really know of. It's the same deal as an iPhone. I mean, this electrical schematic is basically what we're asking for. This is something that I can make if I take a multimeter and spend many hours of my time probing around a logic board. This is not anything. This is not trade secrets. These have been inside of like your washing machine for the past 50 years. So that's really all we're asking for. And the lobbyists that will from the video game lobbyists will mention that it is it's a piracy concern. We're not asking them to give us our the proprietary or the video games related to that. We're just asking for why won't my fan turn on? I want to know why this wire that goes to the fan doesn't work.
It's like an anatomy model of a kidney will help me do a surgery, but that doesn't help me build a kidney.
If I could add something also, schematics are literally just like it's a map of like what wires or when they're on wires. When the wires are on logic boards, they're called traces. It's basically just a map of what wires connect to which components.
I understand what a schematic is. I was asking about the intellectual properties. Thank you.
The young man who mentioned JBS Electronics in Catonsville, where in Catonsville is it?
Yeah, so I grew up on Mellor Avenue, just down the street from the firehouse, where there used to be record and tape traders. And JBS Electronics is on Mellor Avenue, just below Duesenberg's and the Black Kettle.
On Mellor, okay, that's very good. One other thing, I'm just wondering, since we're talking about national companies, they aren't headquartered here in Maryland, and I haven't read everything in the bill. What ability do you think an individual state will have to be able to force a national manufacturer to do what we say?
That's what happened with the cars. So the reason why you see all these cars excluded from this bill is because they already did this in 2012 and 13, and it was done exactly like this. It was the state of Massachusetts, which was the one that finally passed the right to repair for automobiles, and now, Napa Auto Parts and independent dealers, they all get along, and we have that model. This is where this bill came from.
So our state would be standing in our place saying this is a right to all of those who buy your product or in our.
That's right. Then I would be saying, I'm from the state, Maryland, that was the one that passed it first. And I'd
I
be
would
very
like
proud
that.
to do that, so let's make it happen.
Okay. I don't see any other questions. A very good panel, very, very informative. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, everyone.
Okay. Let's see. Now we've got some unfavorables. Catherine Gunter, Ben Gallant, and John Favaza. I guess that's what it is, Favaza. Oh, in fact, let's see, we got some others too. Maurice Gladhill, is that person here? Tim Lampert. What about Alan Shaffer? Larry Albert? Lisa McCabe? And Drake Jamali? Did we fill up the table? We have everybody? Okay, and when one of you has finished, there's one additional person I need to call to take a seat. We're going to
Great.
give you 2 minutes each. All right. Great.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, my name's John Favaza. I'm with Manus Canyon and Associates, and I'm here today representing the Entertainment Software Association. Ben Golant from ESA is here with me. So the Entertainment Software Association, who are we? We are video game manufacturers, console manufacturers, as well as game developers themselves. We had the House hearing just before this, and we've heard a lot about issues with cracked phones and iPhones today, and we just want to make clear to the committee that the bill is much broader than that issue. We're not a phone manufacturer. We're makers of video consoles and these games, and there's two critical parts to our ability to be successful, right? So we've heard about consumers. One, we do not exist without our consumers, right? And the gaming community is an incredibly passionate group of people, and when they're not happy, we hear about it, right? They are very active online and a very, very robust group. So it is critical to us to be responsive to them and what their needs are and providing the best products and service that we can. We also don't exist without protecting the intellectual property of our members. And this bill is a direct threat on their ability to keep and protect that intellectual property. You've heard from some small businesses. Well, there's a cottage industry of video game manufacturers right here in Maryland. There's a hub of them in Baltimore County, right in Hunt Valley. These are individuals that are probably like these two fine young men who were here before, right? Trying to get into a business, who sat in their basement and came up with an idea for a video game and worked on it for probably years and years. And, it was their content. It was their thing. And it's important to them. And it has value. And Ben will go into much more detail about this. But these small companies, and that grew into big companies in some cases, they're not going to be able to exist without these protections. And we're very concerned with the breadth of this bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is Ben Golant, and it's a pleasure to be here today. I am the Chief Counsel for Intellectual Property Policy with the Entertainment Software Association. We believe that our right to repair mandate would be detrimental because of the risk it would pose to game publishers and other copyright owners that rely upon the secure media environment of the game console to safeguard their works against sophisticated piracy efforts. In brief, to help prevent content theft, video game software, firmware, and hardware have security features built into them known as technological protection measures, or TPMs. They prevent the play of unauthorized video game content and access to other content. TPMs on the game console run a verification check on the video game to confirm that it is a legitimate copy. If it is, the console plays the game. If it isn't, the console will not play that game. If TPMs are disabled, any number of illegally copied games could be played on it. TPMs also protect the integrity of the console's firmware, as well as the video games and media content made available on the consoles. In short, TPMs help create a secure media platform. The biggest benefit of this is that it provides video game publishers, media distributors, including music and video streaming platforms, with assurances that their content will be safe. Granting unauthorized repair shops access to the console, along with the tools and know-how to modify the firmware, exposes the platform to potential tampering, including disabling or removing the TPMs that protect the content. That is, sharing hardware schematics along with sensitive diagnostic information, tools, and security-related reset codes with unauthorized third parties would compromise the security of the entire platform and harm console makers and copyright owners. Recognizing that TPMs are entirely necessary and directly related to combating piracy, the U.S. Copyright Office, the leading authority in the country on copyright matters, said as recently as October 2018 that there is no evidence to support the inclusion of consoles under a general right to repair rule. I'll reserve my time for questions from any of you on any of what I said. Thank you very, very much.
Okay, who's next? Ms. Slide.
Hi, good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Lisa McCabe, and I'm with CTIA, the Trade Association for the Wireless Communications Industry, in opposition to this bill. The marketplace already provides consumers with a broad range of choice when it comes to electronic repair. For example, manufacturers have relationships with authorized repair providers. These providers, which also include local and small businesses, have received the appropriate training from the manufacturers and have the qualifications to make sure that these repairs are done properly and safely. It also ensures brand loyalty. Manufacturers value brand loyalty and want to make sure that the device works throughout the life of the product, and they use authorized to repair to ensure that those repairs are done exactly to the specifications of the manufacturer. Providers also, in addition to authorized repair, manufacturers offer walk-in at retail as well as mail-in services for repair. And in some cases, insurance providers offer remote third-party technicians who will come to the consumer to perform a repair. And as was mentioned earlier, consumers can use independent repair today. They have that option, as you heard from many of the prior testifiers. But there are concerns that with this bill, if anyone, any independent provider, anyone who is not certified, who does not have the specific training from the manufacturer, they could have the technical information, but without specific training, they could cause problems with an electronic device. For example, they could cause antenna performance problems, whereas a call wouldn't go through, or could cause undue stress on the frame of a device, which could make it so that it would more easily break when dropped.
Could I butt in and ask you
Sure.
this? If I were trying to repair my own device that I bought and paid for, and if I destroy something on it, that's my problem, isn't it?
Yes.
So I would need the manufacturer to protect me from myself if I decided I wanted to self-repair.
No. But we like to make sure that the device is performing properly and that the manufacturer can guarantee the life of that device.
But it does give you kind of horizontal monopoly over what you sold me. If only you could repair, even if I did have the capability to do it myself.
All manufacturers offer authorized repair program in which an independent repair could become an authorized repair provider and get that training.
But that is kind of a monopoly.
Well, we
you
like
manufacture, you sell, you authorize the people that can repair, and I bought it, but I'm kind of a slave to your operation.
But we want to guarantee that the product continues to work, and so as we have a relationship with people we trust to make sure that those repairs are done properly.
But once I buy it, I should be able to deal with people that I trust.
And you can today, yes.
Okay. All right. Did we hear from everybody? No, we didn't hear from you. Thanks.
My name is Morris Gladhill, and thank you for having us here and sticking with us late today. I'm the John Deere dealer in Frederick, Maryland. My family has held a John Deere dealer agreement since 1937, over 80 years. I believe that bringing the farm equipment industry into this legislation is unnecessary. John Deere certainly supports the right of our customers to repair their own equipment, and we work with those rights every day. For those individuals, those customers, those repair shops that want even more complex service capability, Deere offers a program that they refer to as Customer Service Advisor. It's very similar to what my technicians have been trained on, where we can hook laptops to all sorts of equipment and do definitive diagnostic testing. Daily, we have customers call our dealership with error codes on machines. We give them any information we can to help them repair their machines themselves, to keep them operating in the field. It is not unusual for those error codes to simply refer to something as a switch or a sensor that those customers can and do replace themselves. What you have heard here today with reference to the farm equipment industry, I do not believe is accurate, does not represent the facts in the field. If any of you remember Chuck Fry, past president of the Maryland Farm Bureau, I'll give you his cell phone number. Call him and ask him if he's ever been denied anything to help him repair any of his equipment. From my point of view, this legislation is unnecessary and should not be involved with the farm equipment industry. What the rest of these people are testifying about is a totally different issue. Right to repair is something we support. We work regularly with local farm bureaus to put on seminars to help our customers use what's out there and available to them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the last person needs a seat. Matt Fisher. Is Matt Fisher here?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will be very brief. My name is Matt Fisher, and I represent the Consumer Technology Association. You're all tired and have heard plenty of testimony today. Bottom line here is what you're seeing is a piece of legislation that was rejected by 20 states last year. What you're seeing here is a market share fight between authorized dealers and unauthorized dealers. The unauthorized dealers, that's their business model. That is their business. That's their choice. Authorized dealers have a choice, and they choose to be authorized. It's about safety and security, and again, it's been rejected by 20 states. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, I don't see any questions. Thank you very much. Oh, did we hear from everybody?
Sorry.
Oh, we did.
Yeah, sorry. Again, Drake Jamali with Security Industry Association. Yeah, I'll be brief. So besides facial recognition, our member companies also produce and integrate technologies to keep property safe from fire, theft, and other hazards. This includes fire alarms, security cameras, and also alarm sensors, home alarm systems as well. And so from our point of view, the industry point of view, is that if there was a case where let's say you had an alarm system, it was repaired by independent repair provider, but then it wasn't actually activated when somebody entered your home for burglary purposes, who's liable in that scenario? And we think that from our point of view as well, that the manufacturer of this technology should be the only one that would be repairing it in that instance. And so that's where we're coming from in this instance. So thanks. Happy to take questions.
Okay.
Thank you. My name is Alan Shaffer. I'm the Executive Director of the Diesel Technology Forum. We're a not-for-profit educational association headquartered in Frederick, Maryland, established in 2000. We represent diesel engine and equipment manufacturers, component suppliers, petroleum and renewable biofuel producers. A list of our members is attached to our written testimony. We've had the pleasure of working over the last 2 decades here in Maryland to reduce in-use diesel emissions. Most recently, we were here in Annapolis with then-Delegate, now Senator Clarence Lamb, in support of legislation to establish higher fines and penalties for those found to be emitting excessive exhaust emissions from pickup trucks, a practice known as rolling coal. I'm here today urging an unfavorable report on Senate Bill 723 because, if enacted, it has the potential to make Maryland's air dirtier, not cleaner, jeopardize heavy equipment safety for both farmers, service technicians, and the general public that share the roads, and facilitate a practice that's in violation of the Federal Clean Air Act. Today's diesel engines achieve near zero emissions for particulate matter and nitrogen oxides. It's accomplished by a very sophisticated and integrated emissions control system that's all managed on a moment-by-moment basis by a computer. And one of the concerns we have is that this practice of right to repair has led to the practice of chipping, tuning, or remapping of these engine control units being offered to farmers across the country in the name of boosting performance or saving them money from bypassing emissions maintenance requirements. As you might imagine, when these things are tampered with, the emissions from the vehicle in question go through the roof. In one study in New Jersey, anecdotally, they found that tampering with emissions control systems resulted in 40 times the allowable EPA levels of emissions coming out. So we'd be very concerned about that. The practice will result in increased emissions of NOx going into the Chesapeake Bay, something that none of us want. In conclusion, for these reasons and all others, the so-called right to repair legislation takes us the wrong way for clean air and the wrong way on safety. We urge your vote in opposition. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tim Lambert, and I'm the General Service Manager of Auburn Cat, the Caterpillar dealer serving Maryland since 1927. We operate 14 locations in the state of Maryland, and we employ about 700 people. We are strongly opposed to the inclusion of heavy equipment in this Bill number 723. Caterpillar customers are already given access to many software codes to help them repair their own equipment. We draw the line, however, at providing embedded codes that control the safety and federal EPA emissions compliance on machines. We're concerned that access to such codes will invite the tampering of complex engine and hydraulic systems operating in close proximity to the public. Our power generators also serve as critical backup to hospitals, data centers, government buildings, and turning over codes to unqualified technicians would be risky. At Albin, we invest hundreds of thousands of dollars each year in training technicians, giving them about 80 hours a year in training. As you know, there's a nationwide shortage of technicians, and we also invest in several community colleges, Baltimore County P-Tech, Solars Point, Carroll County Career and Tech Center, and Cecil County School of Technology, in order to maintain a pipeline of qualified technicians. So in summary, there's no need for right to repair in the construction industry. Thank you.
Thank you. Did we hear from everybody?
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. And that ends the testimony on that bill.